How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on a movie called MFKZ. And the reason I watched it was because a friend of mine who also watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners, he was like, "Yo, if you like that show, then this movie, it's kind of similar." One of the main reasons he recommended it to me was because Juan Carlos Esposito is in there. He's a bad guy in it, so he knew that I would like it. I'm here to give my opinions on it. I've learned a lot of things because of this movie, and I'll go into those later. But for right now, for the people who just want to hear my rating, I give it a 6 to a 6.5, more to a 6, honestly. It was a cool movie, but it wasn't a great movie. It was like, you'd watch this, you'd throw it on and just be like, oh, it's a cool watch, but you wouldn't be like, yo, MFKZ is one of the best movies ever. It's not. It's just honestly not. But it doesn't mean that it isn't a fun watch. It is, you know. I enjoyed my time with it. It gave me some good laughs. I was just sitting there like, yeah, this is cool, but I wouldn't dissect or or overanalyze, excuse me, this movie because at the end of the day, it does have some deeper meanings in it, but at the same time, it's just a cool action movie with some like, global warming and all that stuff, and bad bad neighborhoods, low income neighborhoods. I forgot what they're called, but all that stuff. So it's like it has some stuff there, it has some nuance, some layer, but it's better to just not look too deep into it because if you start overthinking stuff like that in the movie, it kind of gets worse, honestly. I was sitting here like the plot, it's alright, nothing crazy, but the action was fire. The action and the animation was fire. I thought it was made by Studio Trigger, but it's not, and that doesn't matter because the animation studio that did do this made it look really good. The action scenes were awesome. I'm not gonna go too deep into them for the intro here, but it's a 6 out of 10. I would recommend it if you just like fun action, some deep layers, but not a complex story. I definitely say it. But yeah, let me get deep into it. So this movie takes place with Angelino, Vince, and then I guess sometimes Willie. Not really. It's more like just Angelino and Vince. And it's funny, right? I learned two things, or yeah, two things. So Vince, right, in this movie, he's actually voiced by Vince Staples, bro. And I I think I heard like Vince Staples has got into acting or voice acting. So I knew he did do roles, but I didn't know that he did this. It's so fire. It's like, yo, wait. I Now that I think about it, like while watching it, yeah, you can hear his voice. So it's like, oh shoot, this is the Ramona Park took my heart, bro. This is the 745. This is fire. It's so sick learning about that. Juan Carlos Esposito and Vince Staples in the same recording studio, bro. Like, I can't even imagine. But the voice actors were cool in this movie. The voice actors were cool. I really like the scientist guy who did the rocket. His voice was awesome. It felt like genuine pro voice acting. You know, it felt sick. But you also have the gang in this movie. They were fire. I really liked their parts in this movie. Whenever they would show up, it was sick. But voice acting aside, you know, the movie is basically Angelino is a 22-year-old kid who lives in an apartment with his friend Vince, and they're struggling to pay rent, have jobs, all that. Vince is a skull with flaming head, so he can't really get a job because he's a fire hazard, and Angelino just can barely keep a job for 3 weeks. So they're struggling, right? One day, you know, as they're going around with their friend Wooly, who's a cat, they they meet this girl or whatever, they leave, and Angelino just feels weird, right? Because before he went out with them, he got ran over by a car, but he didn't die at all. And then he just feels weird. It kind of like activated or stimulated something in him. And then he goes back home, he leaves Willie, and him and Vince are just there chilling. Oh shoot, no, excuse me, I missed the crucial part. So they get chased out or being trailed, they're being trailed by a couple of mobsters, and Angelino notices. So he goes with his friends around back, and this chase scene happens. They get away, luckily, and then one of the main guys who lives, he starts becoming a more apparent character. I don't remember his name, but he starts becoming important. Later on, Angelino and Vince, more known as Lino, basically, are in their apartment, and they get swatted. They literally get swatted. So Angelino and him have to leave their apartment after a crazy chase and a crazy like action scene. And we start to see that Angelino isn't a normal dude. There's nothing normal about him right now. He's really just a dark, a dark creature, I guess, a dark creature. Like literally, he is the color black. It's not like, oh, he's dark skinned. No, he is black. Like he's legit black. And you have Vince, who's a skull, and you have Willie, who's a cat. But then everybody else is normal. So it's just like, yeah, these people are weird. But they leave and now they have to hide out. And this is where one of my favorite parts of the movie comes around. San Andreas, bro. It they basically go to San Andreas and it's the green versus the purple gangs, bro. And they're hiding out in the house, but then the mobsters show up again, and it's this crazy action set piece with the mobsters versus the gangsters, bro, the gangbangers, and it was just like, yo, these, this was fire. I like this part. This part was fire. The beginning was a little slow to me. I was like, oh, all right, cool, whatever. We're learning about Angelino, about all of them. It's cool. It's nothing crazy, but it's cool. Then you get this set piece. It's like San Andreas was so sick to me. It was so sick just seeing that set piece. Not because it's like a direct tie-in. No, it's more like just a reference because I never played San Andreas. I remember watching my cousin play it, but I know about the like the green and purple gang war, I guess. So seeing that there as like a reference is like, yo, that's fire. That's fire. So they managed to leave that battlefield that's going on there and they go to an ice cream truck that's right next to the street, right? They hijack it and well not hijack, well like there was a key left in it and so they go. They go in the ice cream truck and they're being chased by the mobsters still because they killed most of the gangbangers, but they aren't all dead. Remember that. So they're being chased around. This, like, the San Andreas cut thing didn't end at just that. Like, I like it because it's the San Andreas thing, and then everything else that happens after. So they're being chased around in the city, right? It's nighttime now, and all that's going on. They're getting this crazy chase. It's so fire. It reminds me of like the Batman chase in the 2021 2022 movie. I forgot what year it came out. That chase is happening. It was super sick. I loved the animation and the action that was going on there. I loved it. And then you go on. They managed to get away, but it's not really like crazy, right? Like they're not doing good. They managed to get away. They're alive, but they're not doing good. So they go back to the shop that they were at with Willie, where it was like the bodega basically, and Lino meets the girl again that he met in this shop, and they're there, they're talking to her, and she basically set them up because it turns out that she's working with the people, the mobsters, and they capture him, and then we find out that Lino actually isn't human, and that he's one of those creatures that we saw with the tentacles and all that, because we saw them in the San Andreas scene and all that, and we learned that his mother was human, his dad wasn't, and they bred together and they made Lino, but now they're trying to use his power to basically take control over the earth. And these creatures, they're susceptible to the cold, so they're trying to hyper accelerate global warming so they can live on this planet and control the humans, so on and so forth. And Lino is basically sent back into a cell where Vince is, or not, not Vince, Vince, and he's basically sent to kill him. He almost does, but he doesn't. And then they manage to escape. Then we find out that luchadors, some luchadors that were on TV in the beginning of the movie, are coming in to infiltrate the building. Then a scientist out of nowhere just comes out and he's just like, yo, over here, and he escapes. And basically, they all escape. Now it's time for the second half of the movie where we have to A, create a rocket to stop global warming or at least decelerate it, and B, we have to find out what to do with Lino and Vince basically. They leave. They have no part of this. They literally do not care about saving the world. They just care about living. Because, I mean, shoot, they were living in an apartment with cockroaches. They were eating pizza and they were barely living, like barely getting by. So it's like, why would they want to save the world besides, like, I guess, moral obligation? Like, they wouldn't care. And it makes sense that they wouldn't care because why would they? They didn't go through a character arc. More like Lino just found out who he is, but he didn't change because of it because he still refuses to use his powers and all that. So it kind of has me thinking like maybe there'll be a sequel to this movie because there's a lot of loose ends, but I'll get to that when I get to that. But they leave basically. They're thinking of going to like Mexico. They're they're planning to going over to the Don Hector type side, and they get a call from what's his face or no, they call Willie, and it turns out that the guy who they fought when they were getting trailed in the beginning of the movie is actually there. And so Willie is being held hostage. He tells him to come over here, and they go over there. They go over there, and they're being interrogated by some gangsters that were there in the same spot that he lives in. And what's his face? The guy from the beginning of the movie, he has a sniper perched out on Willie's trailer, and so he takes the shot at Lino, but he misses and he hits one of the gangsters, and then a shootout starts happening. And it's this scene when they go back to the to what's it called, to Willie's house, is when my second favorite part of the movie starts, and it's San Andreas Part 2. It's so sick. So the shootout starts, and then you have the rocket being built. They send it up into the sky, and it basically explodes, right? And we'll find out what it has inside it later. I'll tell you later. But the shootout is going on. It's so sick. The mobsters versus this one dude. It's basically like a Modern Warfare or COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, 3 mission. It's so sick. And then Willie's trying to survive. Lino goes over to him and he finds him. He takes him out. They leave, and then there's a news helicopter watching over the entire thing, and they crash. They crash because I forgot what. I think it was because of the rocket exploding. Actually, yeah, because the rocket exploded at the same altitude, so it took the helicopter out because it sent a shockwave through the sky, and the helicopter crashes on the person with the sniper and he dies. The mobsters are basically dead, or almost all of them. But then the guy shows up, Bruce, the guy who was there through the entire time trying to chase Lino and Vince, basically. He shows up again and he's ready to box Lino. But then you have Luna, who was the girl that they met at the bodega. She comes back because she's actually a hybrid, just like Lino, which is basically human and whatever the race was, I forgot. And she's there. She shows up. She helps save Vince, or not Vince, Lino, because he was about to die from hypothermia because the rocket again was, or not again, I didn't mention it, but the rocket was there. It was basically there to decelerate global warming. And since Lino is one of those alien creatures, at least half of them, he gets affected by that thing, by that stipulation that he has. If it's cold, he's going to die. But he's half human, so I guess it kind of like decelerated that as well. So he's not dying as fast, but he is dying. And what's her face? Luna shows up and she kisses him on the mouth, all that. Well, I guess of course it would be on the mouth, whatever. She kisses him and it kind of helps him back because it gives him warmth and all that. But then again, Bruce shows up and he's just like, "Yo, I'm gonna kill y'all, bro. I'm gonna kill y'all." And then Lino and him start fighting, but Lino gets cooked, completely cooked, because he's not using his like venom powers. So Vince is really just like, "Bro, please, just use it." And then Lino's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna let it control me." But it's that thing of like, if you don't let it control you, then you're hiding from it. You're not accepting it. Lino isn't accepting it nor controlling it. He's hiding from it, like I said before. So until he accepts it and he controls it instead of letting it control him, then he's going to live in fear. Like Bruce said, he's going to be a coward. So that's all he can really do. And he loses, but then the people from the first San Andreas scene, the gangsters pull up again. The like the people that I said didn't die, they show up once again and they start boxing Bruce, bro. Well, not boxing because they have guns, bro, but they it's a shootout again. And this time the gangsters win. But Lino, now that Luna isn't here, he's over here reeling from it because he doesn't know if she's dead or not. She knows, or he knows that she's gone, but he doesn't know if she died on the way or not. So 2 months pass. We're at the end of the movie, and Lino's back at his apartment with Vince. And Vince now has a job at the bodega that they first met the Luna at. And Lino is now just writing letters to Luna, trying to see if she's still out there or not, because he doesn't know her address. But we get to see at the end of the movie that yeah, she's still alive. And we also see that the main bad guy is Mr. K, aka Juan Carlos Esposito, which was the guy who kidnapped him. They're on the moon, so they're set up for a sequel. Like most of the characters are still alive. It's mostly just like the bad guys are still alive. Willie isn't dead. He just became like a Jamaican trap star, bro. So he's over here making his money, he basically left them all for dead. He ran away like a coward, but he'll eventually come back. He'll eventually come back. But MFKZ, it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. You know, the voice acting was cool. It wasn't great. Certain characters stood out more than others. You could tell that Vince Staples wasn't really as up to par as like Juan Carlos Esposito or the the scientist guy, but he did good. You know, Vince for him being him. You know, his voice acting was good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It was good. Yeah, all the voice acting in this movie, it was alright. Again, you have others that stand out, but again, you know, what can you do, right? And you have the action, the movie, well, not movie action, the action and the animation. It was great. It was generally great. I loved the action with the gangsters and the mobsters, bro. San Andreas Part 1 and San Andreas Part 2 were so awesome. I loved them so much. Like, you have the first half of the movie where, well, not the first half, but you have like the beginning of the movie. It was cool, but it wasn't great. But then you get to San Andreas, it's like, oh yeah, this is fire. Then you get to San Andreas Part 2, like, oh yeah, this is fire. It was like, for me, those are my favorite parts. But this movie, besides that, I was kind of bored watching it, the other parts. When it wasn't San Andreas, I was mostly just bored. Not that interested, but when San Andreas pulled up, it was interesting to me. So it's like I'm not invested the entire way through. It took a little bit to get going, but when it did get going, it was fire. But, you know, again, the plot is not the greatest. It has some cool themes like global warming, which is a really cool theme, how they used it to aid the aliens' backstory. That was pretty cool. Learning about Lito's story was pretty cool. Learning about the luchadors was pretty cool, but at the same time, it comes with an issue of we don't know much. While we do learn about certain things, we don't know about much. Like we don't learn about Luna, we don't learn about much of Vince if he has a story, or Wooly if he has a story or anything like that. They probably don't because they're just characters that are there to be there. But for the characters that are there, you know, the aliens, we don't learn much about them except their weakness and that they're aliens basically. Lino's dad and all that, we learned that him and his wife made Lino and that they were trying to protect him, but it was forbidden because humans and aliens shouldn't breed and all that, so they died. That, like, okay, cool. We didn't get to see a scene for it, but we just learned it. And it's like, alright, whatever. And then it just felt like certain things were either rushed or not expanded upon. Again, like the scientist, we knew nothing of this character until we saw the facility. And it's like, okay, yeah, we don't have to, but then he becomes a major part of the story because he's the reason why the whole thing happened, why the global warming got decelerated. He's the reason why. We didn't learn about him until literally we're escaping the facility because he's the one that gives us an exit. And the luchadors, on the other hand, we did see about in the movie with like a halfway. So it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we learned about these guys from a decent portion, but we didn't learn much. We learned about their existence and that they're guardians basically, but it didn't expand upon it except like, yeah, these guys are guardians. They're here to protect Earth. They've been here since like the very beginning, and they basically go to luchador events to stay physically fit and not to be existentially bored and all that. It's like, cool. I guess that's all we need, but I wish we learned more. And it just felt like certain things I wish we knew more about sometimes. But you know what can you do, right? If there isn't a sequel, that would suck. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised. It didn't seem like this movie did too well. But I liked it. I liked it. And it also had a bittersweet ending, just like just like Cyberpunk. Man, that hurts. But you know, it's like this movie could be better. Genuinely, it could be better. But with what we got right now, it isn't bad. Definitely isn't bad. So again, I'm gonna give it a 6, and I'm gonna just end it there. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And if you want, you know, I recommend watching this movie. If you just like action, fun action, all that. But if not, you know, whatever you choose to do. But I'll see you all in the next video, and until next time, well, this has been Infamous Isaac, and I'll check y'all out. Peace.